Recently, I've been really exploring different methods to improve my beat making through playing around on Logic, editing my template, and just having some fun. I came across 3 tips that I want to share with you that have already helped with my beat making. So let us get into it. Oh, also, side note, my good friend who used to be the drummer in my band lent me his mini monster book of rock drumming. I basically just went through it and just tried practicing playing my drum pads to it. So highly recommend just getting a drum book and treating your drum pads as an instrument. A quick way to double your hi-hat division is by just sending your hi-hats to a delay. You can change your quarter notes to 8th note rhythms or your 8th note to 16th note rhythms. The benefit of this versus programming in the hi-hats manually is if you're using a character delay, it adds enough variance that actually sounds like a different type of hit, which mimics what a real drummer would do. I use Echo Boy, which is an awesome plugin. You have the option of adding shuffle or swing. You can also rush or drag the sample as well. If you don't have Echo Boy, that's totally fine. Send it to Logic's stock Echo plugin, mute the color a little bit, adjust the mix to taste, throw a sample delay plugin before that, link the left and right channels, and adjust those to taste as well. Another great benefit of having delays, you can automate the hi-hats to the delay for different parts of your arrangement. So I know that this is a very broad tip, but I find while making electronic music, we get so tied up with our computers and using our mouse all the time that I think anytime that we can add something tactile, it just adds a whole nother element to our creations. Instead of just telling you this tip that is like super obvious, I figured I would walk you through my process of making a beat, and I'll show you more little mini tips along the way. I used the drum book that I had mentioned earlier, picked a 5/4 beat, picked samples that I liked, dragged them into Logic's Drum Machine Designer. I also find it's handy to drag the hi-hat sample to 2 separate pads, so you have more space for each finger. Then you can also pitch one of the hi-hats slightly down or up to add some variation to the samples. Then start with a very slow tempo, and I could always speed up the tempo later. Sometimes using the BPM is not the best, especially if you have audio. It will make everything kind of misalign. One of my favorite things about Logic is Varispeed. You can use it to slow down your whole arrangement. And then you can record things in at a very slow speed. And then I could just bump the speed back up. And it's the original tempo you had. To showcase this drum pattern, I chopped up some guitar loops, EQ'd it a bit, and then sent the snare to a verb throw, which I automated to come in and out. Instead of just using samples and a mouse and just headphones, it's so nice to just escape from the computer and just play in real objects. So this last tip I got from a video that Bad Snacks put out. Definitely go check out her channel. When you're actively listening to other producers and trying to recreate their beats, you notice so many different details in the productions that you wouldn't normally. So it's a huge ear training practice, and it's also just teaching you how to be faster at making beats. It was a Tuesday when I recorded this beat, and it made me think of a track I really like by Mr. Carmack and Tennyson called Tuesday. So that's why I picked the song, and also because the song is amazing. I started off by recording into Logic. Then I used a BPM counter to get a rough estimate of the tempo. Went searching for some samples to start building a similar beat. Hot tip, avoid trying to find identical samples. It will slow you down. Pick similar enough sounding sounds, but don't get hung up on the details. Then start building up your beat to match the track you have selected. I started with kick and snare because that's usually the foundation of most beats, so that's a good way to start off. Following my other tips advice, play in your hi-hats. Quantize them a little bit to taste, and I always like to bounce my hi-hats to audio just so I can see how they line up, and then I can edit them later as well. And this is when I started automating delays. As I went through listening to the track, I found so many different subtleties. There were so many different layers. So I started layering my snare. There was a lot of fun percussion sounds that seemed to have so many different layers as well. And once again, played in the old trusty coffee mug. Yep. I swear the track that I was transcribing has a coffee mug sample. It sounds so similar. Then I added some ambience, filtered it in to add a little riser. And then going back and listening to the track I was transcribing, I noticed every snare had a little bit different pitch. So I selected every other snare I had and just pitched them down a little bit. It makes a huge difference. Subtleties are the key to making good beats, I guess. And then I threw the snare to some reverb and the coffee mug to some ambience. Added some bass and some synth to showcase this beat, so I'll play that out for you right away. But yeah, these tips are more exercises than tips. If you have any specific technical questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I'd be glad to help. I'm still learning myself, but let's learn together. And until next time, take care. Bye.